Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ask Huda. I'm your host Jamil Rashid, and I'm happy to welcome back today our Sheikh Muhammad Salah. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair for being with us on this Ask Huda.
Jazakum.
Okay, let me remind you, our brothers and sisters, of our telephone numbers. The country code is 202, then it's 38555, 248 or 249. If you have an email, please send it to ask at huda.tv. And just two notices today. The first, as usual, if you're going to call, please do turn down your television sets. And the second, please do call us early. Sheikh, I'd like to start with a question from Sister Asra Majid. She says, I'm a Muslim girl who wants to marry a Hindu man. He doesn't believe in idol worshipping and believes in one God and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How can I marry him? What does he need to do to make marriage legal? And if he converts for marriage and then makes a genuine effort to embrace Islam, would that be acceptable?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyhi wa mustafah. Praise be to Allah. We praise Him and we seek His help. Whomsoever Allah guides is the truly guided one, and whomsoever Allah leaves astray, no one can show him guidance. May the best peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah the Almighty says in the Quran, وَلَا تُنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا وَلَعَبْدٌ مُؤْمِنٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكُمْ أُولَئِكَ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ بِإِذْنِهِ. Which means, and do not give your daughters in marriage to the disbelievers. And if it is a slave who is a believer, it is better than the richest person if he is a disbeliever. Not just if he's free man, if he's rich, if he's handsome, if he's very powerful and occupies a great position. But if he's not a Muslim, then not a chance. So for a Muslimah, a female Muslim to marry to a non-Muslim, it is totally prohibited. And if any lady or if any woman does not believe in that and she still marries a non-Muslim, then she chooses to be a non-Muslim as well. And any relationship that takes place between these two people is out of wedlock, because Islam does not recognize marriage between a Muslim female and a non-Muslim under any circumstances. So when you say that he's a Hindu or a Jew or a Christian, it doesn't matter. And you say that he doesn't believe in idol worshipping, but and he believes in one God, then he's not Hindu. You know, you have to be very clear in your question, and you are approaching a very serious decision, making a very serious decision, the decision of you yourself choosing Islam or otherwise. Sometimes the questioners like to, if they want to justify their doings, so they phrase the question in such way that to convince the sheikh or the mufti or the one who's being questioned to give an answer that suits their desire. This is not the case here. We only give the answer according to the question. If he's a Muslim, then it is permissible. And not any Muslim you just marry. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَأَمَانَتَهُ. Deen wa amana, religious commitment and honesty. Religious commitment which is demonstrated in akhlaq, in manners. Then let him marry. Let him marry your daughter. Let him marry your sister, or a woman or a girl who's under your guardianship. But other than that, if you give the girl who's under your guardianship to anyone who doesn't have religious commitment, you will be responsible before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concerning that. But if he is in doubt that he's not sure, he's a Hindu, he's a Muslim, then right away he's not a Muslim. A Muslim will be recognized as that he says by the tongue, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and he believes in it firmly by the heart, and he acts upon it. فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. This knowledge of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be fulfilled by two things, by belief and by actions. And amongst the actions is sayings. It's not enough to say that I have a friend who believes in everything like we do. Is she a Muslimah? Is he a Muslim? No. We try our utmost, we give them da'wah, we preach them, we try to explain to them what is the true Islam. But monotheism means that there is only one God to be worshipped, and Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his last messenger. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
But, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, the first call of the day, Sister Iman from Egypt. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
First of all, I like to give my condolences for the whole Huda team and the families from the brothers. I hope that reward in Jannah al-Firdaus, inshallah.
Ameen, ameen.
And I want to ask you a question from a sister in Holland about fasting and autism. The doctors in Holland tell her that autism and fasting is a very dangerous combination. So she's not sure if she can fast now or not. When she's trying to fast, she's not feeling good. And when she's not fasting, she feels guilty. So she really likes to have advice from the Sheikh about this.
Okay.
If I can ask a second question.
Yes, please do.
About women praying together. Does it give more hasana for the woman to pray together, or is it better for them to pray at home alone?
Okay.
I would like to have your advice about this, please.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much, Sister Iman, they're from Egypt. Okay, next we have Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you too, and ask her your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I want to ask about the start of the time for the fast. If I get up a little late, so late that I'm just hearing the adhan, the Fajr adhan, do I have time to at least drink a glass of water, or what is the time limit which I can till when I can eat after the adhan?
Okay.
Or is it that as soon as the adhan finishes, I have to stop eating?
Okay.
Thank you.
Barakallah feeki. Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister Iman's question, Sheikh, about her friend in Holland. She has autism and she's fasting too. The doctors say this is a very dangerous combination for you to be autistic and to fast at the same time. Her friend feels guilty that they're not fasting, but then again feels quite ill when they are fasting. What's your advice, Sheikh?
First of all, thank you, sister, for giving us the condolence. And I would like also to request the viewers to join me once again to pray for another brother who is their fourth, who is the driver of the vehicle. He just passed away a few hours ago. So the total toll now is 4. He was hospitalized in serious conditions, and today he passed away to join his brothers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cover them all with His mercy and forgive them their sins and accept them amongst ash-shuhada. Ameen. So please pray sincerely at the time of breaking your fast for our brothers, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill their graves with light and make them special for them and admit them to His paradise. Ameen. As far as the question and its answer, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He ordained fasting upon the believers, He exempted من كان مريضا أو على سفر, one who's sick and one who's traveling. And those who are sick is been explained in details, that there is a sickness which is temporary and there is a sickness which is chronic, that lasts. We say to the later one, مرض لا يرجى برؤه. It's a disease or a sickness which is not expected to heal, or the patient will recover any soon, such as diabetes, special grades of diabetes, renal failure, heart failure, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. May Allah protect all the Muslims. Such patients who live on medications and they have to take the medication on regular times. But there are patients who live with diabetes, for instance, and they still can fast, and fasting improves their condition. Then they must fast. So not just any sickness, a sickness which with you cannot fast, because if you don't take the medication, your health will get deteriorated and you will faint or you will get sick. So if you find great difficulty, then you must not fast. You must comply with the honest physician who prescribes not fasting for you and take your regular medication. And there is no blame on you whatsoever. You should not feel guilty. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who ordained fasting and made it mandatory. And it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who exempted you and said, فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, that if it is a matter which is temporary, that you are undergoing a surgery today, or extracting one of your teeth, and you have to take pain medicine or medication or drink water, or you're traveling in this condition, then you make up the number of days which you did not fast during Ramadan, some other days whenever you're resident and once you feel better. But if it is chronic, then al-kaffara, which is إطعام مسكين وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. Those who find fasting extremely difficult, because some people will think difficult. It's difficult for me and you. Aren't you hungry right now? I am. Aren't you thirsty? Yes, I am. But I'm talking about those of people at old age, senility, or with sickness, that if they continue fasting, it would really hurt them. It's a great difficulty for them. That is the meaning of يطيقونه. Such as a pregnant woman who has to eat, because the physician said that if you don't eat, the fetus will die. If you don't take this medication, if you drink a couple of liters of water during the day, that the fetus will get dehydrated, or. In this condition, yes, you can fast, but there is a great difficulty that would lead to a greater harm. In this condition, you're exempted from fasting, and the fidya or the kafara is prescribed then, which is ta'amu miskin. After this phone call, I would like to elaborate on the fidya furthermore.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Brother Shakil from the United Arab Emirates, your next brother on Ask Huda, your question please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What is the proper way of making our intention for fasting during the month of Ramadan? Do we have to mention Allah's name while making the intention? Like, oh Allah, I intend to fast.
Okay.
That's it. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah fiqh. Brother Shakil from the United Arab Emirates. Okay, Shakil, if you want to expand on this.
When we said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed the fidya, or the kafara, for those who cannot fast during Ramadan, and they are not expected to fast due to chronic illness, or an illness that lasts with them, such as renal failure, diabetes, blood pressure, etc. He said, فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ miskin, to feed one poor person per each day you skip fasting. So if Ramadan happens to be 29 days, then you need to feed 29 poor people. Will it be sufficient to hold the feast and invite 29 masakin more or less and feed them once? Yes, that works. Would it be sufficient if I buy food equal to half sa', which is maybe 1.5 kilogram of the common food, rice, flour, whatever people normally use, raisin or whatever, and give it individually to each faqir? Yes, along with some meat or chicken, something that will form a meal if they cook it together. That would be sufficient for each miskin. For each day you feed one miskin. There is a very big question mark with regards to, I know that I won't be able to fast this whole Ramadan. Can I give the fidya in advance? Can I feed 30 masakin in the beginning of Ramadan, or hold, for instance, congregational iftar and give iftar to 30 miskin or 30 poor people in advance for the whole month? No. Because the fidya or the kafara is due once you skip a mandatory act. Similar to, so that you remember, because inshallah in a couple of months Hajj is coming, that people just after they perform Hajj, or while they're performing Hajj, they say, I'm giving them, I'm slaughtering the sheep. Why? Say, just in case, I say, what's exactly the violation? What did you do that deserves the fidya? Did you shave? Did you wear? Did you? No, none of that. I made everything perfect. But just in case. There is nothing in ibadah called just in case. You're either certain that you made a violation which requires a specific ransom. You do it in accordance with the violation and in accordance with whatever was prescribed. But to assume, no. To give fidya in advance, no. This is just mere sadaqah and it's not fidya.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Sister Iman from Egypt had a second question about Jama'ah for the sisters. She said, is it better that sisters make a Jama'ah, pray together, or if the sister prays alone? Which is preferred, Sheikh?
Salatul Jama'ah, generally speaking, is superior to praying individually or singular, whether for men or women. So if they form a Jama'ah at home, that's perfectly fine and they get a greater reward, of course. But if you're comparing Salatul Mar'ah, the woman prayer at home, to the masjid, to any masjid, even the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, we have the very straightforward statement of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when he said that the woman's prayer at home is superior to her prayer with me in my masjid.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia asked a question about starting the fast. She said, if I just get up at the time of adhan, Fajr adhan, Is it possible for me to drink something, eat something very quickly? What's the time limit after the adhan, or is there no time limit?
If I explain to you when does the adhan become due, you will find out that once the mu'adhin says Allahu Akbar, you must withhold yourself from eating, drinking, and the rest of the restrictions. Why is that? Because the adhan is the announcement of the approach of the time, or the entrance of the time, actually, not just the approach. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says فَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ, which we explain in detail, Surah Al-Baqarah. This is the time where the mu'adhin says Allahu Akbar. So once you hear the adhan, not in the middle, not by the end, not when he's saying Hayya ala salah, no, once you say Allahu Akbar, you must stop eating and drinking. And if you have food in your mouth or anything, you're into your mouth, and you stop eating or drinking. Once he says that. That if the mu'adhin calls adhan on the right time. Because there are some mu'adhineen, and in some countries, in some localities, they tend to call adhan a few minutes earlier. So if this is the case, you go by the right time, not by the call of the adhan, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ. That is the determining factor. When you recognize the white thread of the dawn from the black thread of the night.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, next we have Sister Khulud from the United Arab Emirates. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please. Are you there?
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa
Alaykum
rahmatullahi
salam.
wa barakatuh.
Ramadan Kareem to all of you.
And to you, sister. Your question, please.
I have several questions to ask.
Okay.
First of all, it's regarding the prayer timing. So which is best preferred? Is it to pray after adhan or to pray after iqama?
Okay. Okay.
And my second question.
Okay.
For example, you have non-Muslim friends. So which is the best way to deal with them?
Okay.
Just I need an advice regarding that.
Okay.
Okay, a third question. For example, you're working as a lady engineer, and especially here in the UAE, most of engineers are men. So there are only few lady engineers. So is it haram that you are going to work in that kind of environment, even though your career is as engineer and you want to practice that career that you have finished?
Okay.
Jazakumullah.
Jazakallah. Sister Khulud there from the United Arab Emirates. So just another reminder there. Please do turn down your television sets if you are going to call in. Brother Shakil had a question, Sheikh, regarding the intention for fasting. Is it a verbal intention? Do you have to say something aloud before you start fasting, Sheikh?
النية محلها القلب. And we repeatedly emphasize on this fact. It is not required to say, I intend to pray or to fast or to do anything. النية stems from the heart. And Allah is fully aware of what's in your heart. So there is no need whatsoever to utter this niyyah. This is an act of innovation that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not do, nor any of his companions. That some people say it out loud to remind themselves. But let me ask you this. Have you made preparations to receive the month of Ramadan? Yes. And did you get up by the end of the night to have suhoor because you're fasting tomorrow? Yes. Aren't you eating, you're not eating and drinking during the day? Yes. Why? Because I'm fasting. So you already recognize that you're fasting. The preparations and the actions which you're doing indicate that you're fasting. And that is the right interpretation of your intention. So there is no need to say, I intend. And whether one intention is sufficient by the beginning of Ramadan, or do I have to make an intention for fasting on every single day of Ramadan? In the beginning of Ramadan, when you intend by the heart to fast throughout the whole month of Ramadan, that will be sufficient, that you don't have to do it on every single day.
Jazakallah khair. Sister Khulud had a couple of questions. The first is regarding prayer times. When does somebody start praying? Just after the adhan, or do they wait for the iqamah? And this is going to vary, of course.
Well, if you are praying in the masjid, of course you join the flow. You join the crowd. You wait until the muezzin calls the iqamah. You don't pray on your own. But if you are praying on your own, once the time enters, then the prayer is due. Once the muezzin finishes the adhan and you say your supplication, you may pray. That if you are on a journey, for instance, and you're shortening or combining the prayers, you're exempted from praying sunan or the nawafil before and after. In this way, in this condition, you don't have to wait to pray any sunnah. But if you are addressing yourself as a lady at home, of course we wait after the adhan enough time to pray the sunnah. Is it mandatory? No. That's why I said it's a sunnah, that if you're planning to pray sunnah. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned certain sunnah and he confirmed their importance. To the point that the mother of the believers, may Allah be pleased with her, narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, one who will pray regularly 12 rak'ahs of the nawafil every day, Allah will build a house for him in paradise. And the hadith is sound hadith. And just like quick reminder, the 12 rak'ahs are 2 rak'ahs before Fajr, and 4 before Dhuhr, 2 by 2, and 2 after Dhuhr, 2 after Maghrib, and 2 after Isha.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, relationships with non-Muslim friends. What's the best way to deal with them? What's the best way to interact with them, Sheikh?
I always like to quote this reference from Surah Al-Mumtahina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين وَلَمْ يُخْرِجُوكُمْ مِنْ دِيَارِكُمْ أَنْ تَبَرُّوهُمْ وَتُقْسِطُوا إِلَيْهِمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ. Allah does not forbid you from being kind and gentle, from dealing nicely with non-Muslims, as long as they did not fight against you on account of your religion, nor kicked you out of your homes on account of your religion, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who are equitable. We're commanded to be nice to everyone, as long as they do not declare a war against us, as long as they do not ridicule our religion, our principles, our Prophet, or our God. But if the case is different, that they do anything to hurt us with regards to our religion, then An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من نفسه وماله وولده والناس أجمعين. You should give precedence to the love of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to Allah over all things, not just your friends and colleagues, but your own self, your wife, your children, and your business. So people who are modest, they're non-Muslims, they don't believe in our religion, they don't comply with the teaching of our Islam, they don't believe in the message of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they're peaceful people. They do not declare or wage a war against us. They do not hurt our feelings. So it's okay to deal with them with kindness. And I think we have enough records in the history and the biography of the Prophet ﷺ that shows us how he treated the Jews in Medina until they started. And Nabi ﷺ did not exile any of the Jews out of Medina until they started. Once, when one of them uncover the awrah of a Muslim woman. Then second, when they tried to assassinate the Prophet ﷺ, why he was very gentle and kind and nice to them. And he even made treaties of agreement that they protect one another, they support one another, they live peacefully in the same city, and Medina and Munawwara. And Nabi ﷺ used to deal with them selling and buying, and there is no problem with that. But only those who oppose us. إنما ينهاكم الله عن الذين قاتلوكم في الدين وأخرجوكم من دياركم وظاهروا على إخراجكم. Either directly or indirectly. Those who forced you out of your homes, those who fight against you on account of your religion. In this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not accept that you take them as allies or as friends or as intimate friends or beloved ones, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love them.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, the last question from the sister is regarding work, a career. She's saying she works as an engineer, and unfortunately in this kind of work, the majority of engineers are men. She's used the word haram here.
Why, unfortunately? Why, unfortunately, that most engineers are men? Are you happy seeing a Muslim woman wearing a pair of tight jeans with patches everywhere and wearing the helmet, working as a construction engineer? How good is that? What's good in that? Is this how you prove yourself? Is this how you say, that's me, I'm a successful woman? No. What happened to your children? They're lost. Why? Because you're in the field, wearing a helmet and competing with men in the construction field. Well, we didn't say that work is prohibited for women. Did I say that? No. I was asked repeatedly and I said that sometimes work is recommended for women. We need women teachers. We need women, female gynecologists and obstetric females. We need females in so many fields. But in a field which is designated for men, a construction engineer, somebody who's working in the field day and night and wearing the work uniform, does it befit a Muslim woman? And you're going to go wearing your abba and wearing your hijab and the helmet to work as an engineer? Well, you can work as an engineer if you're working in the office as an architect. That's permissible. But to work in the field and show yourself, display your aura before men, of course that's not permissible.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, with that we're going to take a short break and inshallah return in a couple of minutes. Please do stay with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Shortly, we should be receiving the blessed month of Ramadan. This month of Ramadan is a season that the true believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his heart longs for this season. Because it's a season for the hearts to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to become purified and cleansed and to go back to Him in repentance after being overcome by the life of this world and sins and disobedience. This month of Ramadan, my dear beloved viewers, we should know is an honorable guest. It's so honorable that our Salaf al-Salih, our pious predecessors, 6 months consecutively after this month of Ramadan, they used to pray to Allah and make invocations to Allah to accept their fast of Ramadan. And the other half of the year, our pious predecessors, they used to supplicate to Allah to give them life which is long enough to make them reach this month of Ramadan. So it's though that the life of our pious predecessors, the whole year revolved around this month of Ramadan.
Man is still man, the same nature, the same requirements and the same statistics as you see here, even for men and women.
When it comes to managing 2 families, we have to be financially, they should be happy and they should be financially taken care of.
What advice from your experience would you give the brothers who are thinking like Brother Saif?
Right.
And for the sisters who are thinking as well, for their husband not to have a second wife?
You know that you have to be righteous in your actions to the best of your ability, as if you're following everything, the Sharia, the Sunnah, according to what the Prophet did and how he acted with his wives and his companions, and how his wives acted with him.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ask Huda. Let me just remind you of our telephone numbers. The country code is 202, then it's 38555 248 or 249. Our email address is ask@huda.tv. Sheikh, I've got a question here from a brother. He says, I'm a new convert to Islam. I need to find some information, something that's been troubling me since I've become a Muslim. About ghosts, manifestations, hauntings and so forth. What does Islam say about this, Sheikh? Could you give the brother some advice?
Well, Islam teaches us that there is a world which is known as the world of the unseen. Amongst its contents, the angels, the jinn, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam has informed us about the nature of each. Angels, Allah created them from light, versus the jinn were created from fire. As repeatedly Satan said that I'm better than him, than Adam. He created him from mud while he created me from smokeless flame in one ayah, from fire in another ayah, and so forth. Concerning the jinn, which basically what you're referring to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about their nature, إِنَّهُ يَرَاكُمْ هُوَ وَقَبِيلُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا تَرَوْنَهُمْ. that Satan and his company could see you while you could not see them. And they do have the ability of disguising in any form and shape. And they do have the ability of being presented before you as a human, or as somebody who passed away, or. There is no way of communicating with the jinn, with us as humans, as believers, unless some of those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and utilize the jinn as they used to utilize them before Islam to inform them about what's going to happen tomorrow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Jinn that they used to go up and ascend to listen to the writings of the angels with the commands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is dictating to them to be executed in this coming year. And they would take one information and they would go down to their allies of the soothsayers or the fortune tellers, and they would tell them about one correct informations. For instance, there will be an earthquake, 7 point whatever, in Japan, and that many people will die. That was ordained to the angels. So they will take this information and they will go to some soothsayer somewhere who has a microphone and will tell the people or write a book that I expect an earthquake to take place in this area. So when it happens, it doesn't mean that he knew the unseen, but he used to be the jinn, would overhear the informations from the angels and reveal them to their allies. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stopped that. So the only way of communicating with the jinn through disbelieving in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why there is several methodologies of treatment of possession, or whenever somebody is possessed with the jinn, that happens. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam indicated that the best way is through the Quranic verses. And the lengthy hadith of Abu Huraira, hadith Satan when he was guarding the sadaqah and he came to him 3 nights and he was stealing and so on. The 3rd night he said, shall I not teach you something that will protect you and will benefit you from every shaitan, that in the evening say or recite Ayat al-Kursi. What did the Prophet ﷺ say as a comment on that? He said, صَدَقَكَ وَهُوَ كَذُوب. He was speaking the truth even though he's a great slayer. Do you know who was he? It was a shaitan. So shaitan, or the ghosts, whatever, are very weak when it comes to protecting yourself and immuning yourself with the Quranic verses such as Ayat al-Kursi, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, Surah Al-Baqarah, the greatest ayah ever, and Al-Mu'awwidhat, Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, and Qul a'udhu bi rabbil nas. And if you recite the adhkar of the morning and the evening, beyond that, you're not supposed to think about the jinn and if they could harm you or not, because you're already protected. Nothing would harm you if you recite these adhkar and these verses which are just quoted right now.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, I've got a question here from a sister. She says, I'm 40 years old and for some time I've had some problems with my monthly periods. I've been bleeding for 7 to 10 days, she says, and after this time the flow doesn't go away. Sometimes the discharge is different colourish. Presently I'm undergoing some surgical procedure. She said, I'm really confused as to when I can pray, when I can start doing those ibadat.
Okay. First of all, as long as you're still having the period, you do not enter the menopause, then once there is bleeding, there is some doubt that it could be a regular monthly cycle or monthly period. How to determine whether it is or not? One, if a woman has a regular and a fixed number of days during the month or each month that she gets the period for 5, 6 or 7 days, then once she gets that is a period, even if there is an interruption in the middle, the bleeding stops, then it returns within the same period, that is definitely the bleeding of the period as well. Second, if it goes beyond the regular cycle, so if your cycle is 5 and it's gone beyond that, 6, 7, 8, 9, as long as it is extended and non-stop, it was not interrupted with purity, then that too is from the monthly period. And if it becomes consistent every month from now on, then your period has transformed to another period, becomes greater or longer in time. There is another condition, just to help you to determine whether this bleeding is the bleeding of the period or not. What difference does it make if I know it is the bleeding of the period or not? It makes all the difference. Because if it is the bleeding of the period, the monthly cycle or the menstruation, that you're not allowed to pray, nor fast, nor touch the Quran, nor have a relationship with your husband. But if it is an irregular bleeding due to any cause, medication, etc., sickness, psychology, whatever, in this condition, this irregular bleeding, you still have to pray. Not that you're allowed to pray, no. You still have to pray, but make a special tahara for each salah. And you pray all the related nawafil along with this fard. So you make wudu for dhuhr, you may pray the sunan before and after dhuhr, all the way until asr. And whenever asr salah is due, then you make a new wudu after the adhan, not before, to pray the sunnah of asr and salatul asr as well. And can I read Quran in this condition? Yes, you can. No problem, because this is an irregular bleeding. This is not the bleeding of the menstruation. I said, if the bleeding pops up all of a sudden, there are some, we call it physical characteristics, features with it. Every woman could determine whether this bleeding is the bleeding of the menstruation or not, such as the color, the dark red color, and offensive smell. So if this is the case, this is the period. But if it is bright red or brownish or yellowish, it is totally different color, then this is an irregular bleeding as well. Meaning, if a woman experienced her monthly period, then she saw a tahara after she cleaned up herself and the piece of cotton came clean, then she's tahir. Then a couple of days later, she saw some brownish color or yellowish color. That doesn't hurt. This is not the period, because the physical characteristics of this blood or this excretion is different from the characteristics of the regular bleeding of the menstruation. And Allah knows best. Sisters, the issues related to the monthly period and the menses are very complicated, because each woman has his own story. That's why our Sheikh used to say that women's issues or questions is like an ocean without shore. Each woman has her own story. So this is a general answer. But if it doesn't fit your case exactly, then you have to ask the question yourself to explain exactly your story.
Jazakallah khair. And if you want to ask us questions, please do send us an email at ask@huda.tv. Okay, next we have Sister Asma from Belgium. Sister, you're live and Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have a question about mental illness. I have been suffering from OCD for a long time now. I have been looking for psychological help for 2 years, for almost 8 months now. So I have been talking to a psychologist about this. But I do miss the spiritual part of it. So I want to know, what does Islam say about people who are not, or having lots of difficulties with meeting the spiritual commitments with Allah? And it has a great effect on the connection that I have with Allah. So,
are you talking about fulfilling the religious duties?
Yes, absolutely.
Such as the prayers or fasting?
Prayers, fasting is going well, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah.
But I have some difficulties with praying and
concentrating.
Just everything that has to do with religion. That I created some fears around it, but alhamdulillah, I'm in the progress of getting better now. But in the meanwhile, I do have this hunger for, my heart is always looking for something, but my mind is not there. So my mind and my heart are not in harmony with each other.
Okay.
So and I would like to know how do I look at it myself? So not because sometimes I'm really sad about it, that I cannot do the things that I used to do. So.
Jazakallah khair, sister. Sheikh, if you could answer that question, please.
First of all, I thank you, sister, for entrusting us with this question. Second, I thank you because you're the first caller from Belgium. Third, I personally have a personal opinion. I'm confirming, and I'm repeating myself, a personal opinion with regards to psychiatrists in the non-Muslim countries. Because in many cases, it makes the person get worse. And I was invited to a program with a psychiatrist, and we were discussing some marriage issues. And after being together for so many episodes, by the end he came to me and said, I think I need to sit with you and speak about some of my personal problems. Because I was presenting the view of the Sharia, Islam, what Islam says about this and this and that. And he was presenting the scientific point of view, which is empty from any spiritual religious aspect. So that's why I think you need to find good Muslim friends. That's number one. And you have to speak to a sheikh who's nearby, or an imam of a masjid. If you can, if you don't have any, then email us. Hopefully, inshallah, we can communicate and assist you. This is not an issue which I can give you a tablet or a pill that you swallow and you will heal and you will feel better. This is a matter of refuting doubts in your mind, because now you said that there are questions. I have been questioning so many things. So, first of all, I have to know what are the questions and handle them one by one. Second, do not allow yourself to daydream a lot. Write everything down, that whatever confuses you, whatever you feel that you're not sure from, write it down. You can email us, or once again, as I said, if you have an Islamic center nearby, and I advise the imams and the shuyukh to handle these cases delicately, and to spend some time with them, not to belittle them or undermine them and say we have greater problems. That's a serious problem. We have handled cases like this before, and the person was in a condition where one person, I will just say one person, give one example. He was experiencing similar conditions. So when I visited him, his house was full of pictures and records and music and so on. And of course that affected on his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm saying this is an example, not necessarily this is your case or similar to it, but I'm showing you that the person who will prescribe the treatment or give the medication has to be fully aware of the condition and the environment which you're living in, and what kind of questions pop up in your mind. So I helped him out to take these things out, and I helped him to schedule his prayer on time, and how much Quran he would read, etc. And he has improved in 1 month tremendously, until he became very normal and ordinary person. I would love to help you as much as I can, but please communicate with us via email, and inshallah I'll pay special attention to your email.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Sister Asma, if you want to send an email to ask@huda.tv, we'll forward it directly to the Sheikh. Okay, next we have Sister Hala from Egypt. Sister, you're live, and ask her your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
I wish you a blessed Ramadan, inshallah, for you, brother, and the safe.
Barakallahu feek, sister.
I have a question about my husband has a friend, okay, and this friend, you know, we had certain circumstances. We have to move from where we live. So this friend told him, you can stay in my apartment, and this apartment is empty. He used to pay the rent and just have some stuff in this apartment, okay. And if you didn't find a place before the period that your other landlord gave you, didn't find another place, you can stay in my apartment. And so my husband told him, I can't afford such a rent. It's supposed to be 1,100 pounds. Okay. Because my husband, you know, pension is not that bit much.
Okay.
So his friend told him, no, it's okay. I will pay half of the rent, and you pay half of it.
That's nice of him, but what is the question there?
Okay. After a while, since we moved to this flat now, he didn't send his part from the rent.
Okay.
And by July, he just surprised us by saying he don't want this flat anymore. Now he put us in a big jam. Okay. because my husband's pension is not going to be enough paying the rent and buying medicine and then being enough for this.
Okay.
Anyway, just not to make it shorter for you, now we just told the landlord that we have to move before the contract finishes because we can't afford such a rent.
Okay.
At the end of this period, there is about 2 months ta'meen, or he takes like insurance.
Deposit, yes.
And the other man who is actually paying.
Okay, then, Jazakallah khair for that question, sister. Okay, next we have Sister Marwa from the United Arab Emirates. Sister, you're live, and ask her your question, please.
Alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
Ramadan
barakatuh.
Kareem, Sheikh, Brother Jamil.
And to you as well, sister.
Yeah, I have only one question. Sheikh.
Okay, far away.
Regarding the mentally ill, the person, they are not capable of making decisions for themselves, whether to choose Islam or not. So what does the Sharia says about this?
Okay.
Yeah, just to give you a background, my parents actually are in this situation. My father was he has this delusion, so as my mom, so I don't really know what to do with that. So if you could just please.
And that's a recent thing. They were not like that before. They were healthy before, right?
Right?
Were they healthy before that?
Before, yeah, but they have this midlife crisis, and then it fell into that situation.
Okay.
And we tried everything, but
Okay.
Okay.
Wajazakum.
Barakallahu feeki. Sister Marwa there from the United Arab Emirates. Sheikh, I've got a question here from the sister we were speaking to before about the problem with the menses, and she was speaking about something that we spoke earlier on about, is that we should try to find a female gynecologist at all times. She said it's quite difficult in the country that I'm living in. Most of them are males. We really can't find female gynecologists. What do we do? Do we have to stick with the males?
Number one, the general ruling that there is something called awra, that a woman should conceal even from another female, even if this female is her own mother, even if this female is her own daughter. And now we're talking about the private part, which is the most dangerous area when it comes to awra. We call it al-awra al-mughallada. It's very serious. So whether it's a male or a female, it is prohibited for any person to look at your awra except your spouse. Only your spouse. Then it would be permitted with conditions according to necessity. So if there is a necessity such as delivery, giving birth, and the need to see a gynecologist, then the lightest is to have a female and a Muslim female gynecologist. What if there is no Muslim female gynecologist? Then female, even if she is non-Muslim gynecologist. If there is none, there is a difference between there is none at all and what the sister said that most. If most, that means there are some. If there is even one, then you have to stick to the female. We don't go to the next step unless if this step is not available, unless this solution is not available in the time being. So in this condition, I say, if there is a female gynecologist, that you are not allowed to see a male gynecologist. But if there is no female whatsoever, then with a limit, and in the presence of your male mahram, and with covering the entire body except for the part which needs to be checked on, and in the presence of your male mahram, whenever it is very necessary, it becomes permissible.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, yes, the question from Sister Marwa from the United Arab Emirates regarding mental ill. Somebody who falls into a midlife crisis and has problems, how do they deal with this, Sheikh?
In Islam, the Prophet ﷺ teaches us that رُفِعَ الْقَلَمْ عَنْ ثَلَاثٍ. Al-Qalam represents the pen that records our actions, good or bad. And Rufi' means is lifted, means it does not record the actions and the deeds of three kinds of people. الصبي حتى يبلغ, the youngsters until they reach the puberty age. والنائم حتى يستيقظ, and one who's asleep until he wakes up, he or she of course. والمجنون حتى يفيق, and one who's insane or experiencing mental illness. Mental illness varies from a person to another. So if this person's mental illness makes him not being able to recognize things around him, good from bad, In this case, he's mentally ill, and this illness makes him exempted from the takalif. But we're talking about what was before this condition, and that's why I asked her, is it something new, or was he born like that? For a person who's born like that, he's exempted. For a person who was born to a Muslim family, then he turned to a mental illness, he's exempted from offering the ibadat. Allah does not ask him about the salah, about the siyam, about anything, because he is not required to fulfill any of that. He's mentally ill. رُفِعَ الْقَلَمْ عَنْ ثَلَاثٍ. But if it is before that he was healthy and he was able to make his choice, if he was aware of Islam, if he has heard of Prophet of Islam, if he has heard of the Quran, he will be accounted accordingly. If he did not know, then his matter is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because there is something called the benefit of doubt, that I did not know anything. And as a matter of fact, until recently, there were some people in certain areas, even in Europe and in the States, never heard of anything about Islam. Thanks to the media after September the 11th, made everybody, of course, fully aware of Islam. Then it became mandatory on every person to seek knowledge and to understand this religion, because before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will be asked about his choice. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. We give him the choice to choose what's right and what's wrong after we explain to them both of them.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for all your answers today. Well, that's the end of this episode of Ask Huda. If you do have questions, please send them to ask@huda.tv. Until next time, we leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair.
If my love is attached to thee, then from sins I will be free. Each time my heart will beat, your name will resound with heat. Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.